It's time for Class Racing Today, the podcast for the NHRA class racing fan. Welcome back to Class Racing Today. It's February 1st, 2021, and it's a good day, even though it's cold here for most of us here in the upper Midwest and the Northeast. We'll see some warm in just a minute. But Brian and Bobby, we took a lot of January as kind of a prep, you know, a vacation. I don't know if it's a vacation. How's it going, gentlemen? What's happening in your worlds now that the first month of the year is gone?
It's cold. It's snowing. Cold. It's windy. If a tree falls through my room right here, somebody call 911 for me. And it's a snow day. Stepson is home from school today. He's all excited, and he says hello.
Awesome.
You guys have snow days out there?
You guys would be trekking. You guys would be walking to school, right? 20 miles both
here
ways.
In the Dakotas, we have
uphill.
to get up early and put the baked potatoes in the oven a couple hours for the kids to go to school so they can put them in their pockets to keep their hands warm. You know.
Now, I did an interview with an old guy a couple years back, and he said that when he was little, which would have been a long time ago, that they would have a tinfoil wrapped potato that they took with them to school. And when they got there, they put it on the fire. And then by noon, it was ready for eating.
Oh my.
Well, now that I've gotten to the stupid racing habit, I think I'm going to have to take my can of beans and put on the intake of my race car so it would heat up so I'd have something to eat during the day so I can save some money and put it into my car and make it faster. But unfortunately, the plastic intakes probably don't get hot enough to work anymore like that.
Yeah, that would be weird.
Bobby, have you ever heard of putting sandwich bags around your feet when you put it on your boots?
Oh, yeah. I did that for years.
I didn't know if that was a Dakota's thing or not. When I was a kid,
it was a cold thing.
Sock, bag, sock. 2 pairs of socks.
But
I've valeted cars for 14 years, and it would be nights like this would be the worst. So it was definitely a learned habit to stay warm.
I will say,
it's also how I learned how to drive too. I mean, what better practice than just whipping around people's Porsches and Ferraris and the occasional nice Challenger or Camaro that will come in.
Which one was nicer? The Challenger?
The Mustang.
It's funny that you mentioned the Challenger first, as you said nicer.
The McLaren.
I think maybe you should take different lessons because I don't know if that really taught you anything about driving.
Then I actually took those lessons that I learned. I went out to stunt driving school in California, Irwindale Speedway, and learned from this guy who drove in all the movies. He's actually in the original Naked Gun, by the way. If anybody's ever seen that movie, it's one of my favorites. And I was really good at driving backwards through the cones because that was all I did when I was a valet. So, hey, I took those lessons forever. If anybody needs a stunt driver, if you need me to spin a car around, I can do that, by the way.
Well, you've seen the video clips of the Secret Service driving the Beast, the president's car, backward around the track.
That should be me. I could be.
Should it be
that.
you?
Yeah. Or I should be an ambulance driver. How many lives I would save?
Really? Or would they just get thrown about in the back?
With one hand too. I don't even.
Bobby would have the most fatalities once they're in the ambulance.
Even if I could shift it on the column if it had to be.
Would you have the little skull and crossbones on the window for everyone that died in the ambulance from the being tossed around? Or
it's like the football players' helmets. They're full of their sticker.
We've been 37 minutes without an accident.
Oh, this show is derailed already.
I think, Bobby,
Where did we just go? I don't even know.
We should retire and just move to Arizona.
No kidding.
No.
How big is our awesome guest today, the Cottens? How big is your garage? Do you have room for like 2 sleeping bags underneath the workbench or something? Or
Brian will sweep the floors. I'll wash the dishes.
I just want to drive a Mopar again.
Our guests literally had a cactus in their background.
A cactus forest, it looked like.
I haven't seen that since I played Super Mario Brothers 3 back in 1992. And I flew through it with the raccoon tail. Our younger viewers might remember that.
The younger ones?
Age 30 to 40-year-olds. Posey, help me out.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we do have a great husband and wife guest, a couple that we, all want to aspire to be like as we enter our retirement years, hopefully, if any of us get there. They are, well, Mike and Paula Cotten out of Arizona. Arizona transplants, though, right? Originally from the Tulsa area of Oklahoma.
That's correct. Broken Arrow.
Broken Arrow.
Yes.
Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Now, the driver of, let me see if I can get this right, 1970 Barracuda and Super Stock IJ automatic with a 383.
Yes, that's correct.
We still have an F-Stock automatic Duster, like a 73 Duster with a 340.
That's correct too. Yeah, that's the car, or similar to the car that I've raced most of my career.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
It's green, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Jeez,
then
Bobby, do you stock them?
there was a horrible wrong turn somewhere where they picked up an 85 Camaro. That's the silver Camaro. When I saw it on Facebook, I was like, that can't be right. Who wrote that? In IJ stock automatic, and coming soon an 83 Camaro in J or K stock automatic. So something's really going on. I guess they found out how easy it is to run a Chevrolet. I just made 5,000 enemies by saying that. But,
Welcome to the dark side.
I won't say easier, but certainly cheaper.
Cheaper. That's what I meant.
Thank you guys for having us, by the way. Thank you for having us on.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Yeah. But
So-
yeah, the Camaro came about after, when Paula had her accident and quit for a while. She after 2 or 3 years, she decided she wanted to do it again, and a friend of ours in Oklahoma had that car for sale, so that's how we ended up with the Camaro.
Gotcha. That's good. Well, always happy to see both of you in the driver's seat, and glad that Paula is back in there having fun. And she's a terror. I remember coming out to Arizona in 2013 and watching her take out some heavy hitters at the Arizona Nationals. That's, I think, where I first met you guys.
Yes.
So I was hanging with Kip Martin that weekend. He had a Mustang just like mine, and I was trying to study that thing top to bottom, front to back, side to side.
Yeah,
I had to be as fast as him.
Kip and I were very good friends. Kip helped me a lot. I really miss him. Really good guy.
He did a lot of engine.
He did. Back when he was at the Patterson shop, we used to take our cylinder blocks up there long before we had the Super Stocker. And then even when he moved out here to Arizona, he did a lot of work for me. I really liked him. Really good guy.
Good. He was a really smart guy.
Yes.
And I was just impressed when I met him. He had his iPhone out checking results. I'm like, my poor father doesn't even know, he can barely, he's still using the flip phone. I'm like, Kip's out here, he's like 70 some years old. He's got his iPhone out. He's checking results, showing me things. So I was like, man, you are.
Bobby, have you ever actually tried to look at a text message on a flip phone?
When I had one a couple years, 2 years ago, yeah, I was using it.
It was probably a month ago. Some guy goes, "Hey, look at this deer my kid shot." He opened up his flip phone, and I'm like, "Is there a deer in there?" Like,
oh, the camera, yeah, the 3
like,
pixels.
Like, it looks more like an ink blot drawing than anything.
Yeah. Yeah, the postage stamp size screen. I remember him very well.
So rumor has it you two met Mike's last week of high school. Mike's last week of senior year, Paula junior year. And you guys have been together ever since. What are we on, 40, 45, 44?
40, it'll be 45 this year. And that's correct. We actually dated unbelievably for 4.5 years while we both went to college at different schools.
He needed a job.
Yeah, she wouldn't marry me till I got a job.
Where did you guys go to college?
I started at Oklahoma State and finished at TU, and then at Tulsa University, and Paula went TU the whole way. And I had a job. I actually worked for Budweiser. And so I was having to come home every weekend to work. So even though at the time Tulsa University tuition was higher, it was cheaper for me to come back home and live at home with my parents and keep that job. So that's ended up what happened.
We knew we wanted to race at that time, so we were already planning.
Yeah, I already had, I bought the Duster, the first Duster, when I was 18 and drove it to school. And then when we got married in 76, within 1 year, we took it off the street and made a race car out of it.
Did you find it easier to get a girlfriend because you drove Mopars?
I never found it easy to get a girlfriend. That's why I kind of locked on to one of the early ones.
like what a keeper.
I just didn't have that personality.
I love watching the old Chrysler commercials, like, like where the guy pulls up on the Charger and the girls just run to it. Like, marketing was a lot different in the 70s.
I got to be honest. I never had that. I was kind of a long-haired, geeky guy.
Long-haired? No way. We should have had you pull up a picture.
Then I had to cut it all off and go into the real world, and then I never looked back.
So where'd the real world take you after college?
Believe it or not, I worked for a bank for almost 3 years, and I decided that wasn't for me. I was actually a collector. I was a repo guy, repoed cars and stuff, and I could just see I wasn't getting anywhere there. So I kind of started over, and I became an inventory control specialist. I worked for a company that built huge derricks, drilling derricks. Everything in Oklahoma was oil related. And then I spent a lot of years at a company that built oil wellheads, and then finally went into the family business when my father passed away pretty suddenly and unexpectedly, and I took over the family business when I was in my mid-30s.
What was that?
We built, my grandfather and father invented a type of pipeline pig that is a mechanical device that goes through crude oil pipelines and scrapes the paraffin. And so I took that business over and the product became obsolete in the last 10, 15 years. And I just kind of rode that business down to the end, and it just worked out perfect. About the time I was ready to retire was the time that product was kind of reaching the end of its life. And then most of my friends I was also in the trash business for almost 30 years. And I ran both of those businesses from the same location. But most of my friends enjoy thinking of me as a trash man.
That's what got you into the Chevys. I shouldn't say that. I'm going to get hate mail now.
I know. We're going to get
Well, I was going to say, speaking of trash, Bobby, no.
Still want to get him into a Ford, even though they were laying on the side of the street.
So the green Duster, apparently you took this on your honeymoon, and then a year later you said you turned it into a bracket car.
We did. And we bracket raced it for years at Tulsa. I still consider that my home track. Back then they had a pretty good bracket program every Saturday night. And at the awards banquets, sadly enough, I used to get awards for perfect attendance. We were always there. Even a high school night and everything else, we would be there.
And the snow would be on the side of the track, and we're racing.
And I actually towed that car with a tow bar, and then we would go out there and put the slicks on it and open the headers up. And if we did well enough to be there late at night, I would take the chance and just drive it home with open headers and the slicks, and then coast down the street up into our front yard. But really, really good times. That's when we met Kevin Helms and became real good friends with Kevin. And really, really some great memories from back then. Yeah.
I think the tow bar days would be great. Like, there should be a tow bar race. Like, the class racing revival that's coming up, how cool it would be is one of the prerequisites is you had to come with a tow bar.
I think that would be an awesome idea.
I don't know. We got the tow bar. He was nervous and made me ride in it.
Yeah.
To make sure.
Paula, you're a keeper.
I was still working at the bank, and I had a pickup for a company car, so we could, and then the other one was this Lincoln Town Car. There were two company cars amongst the 5 collectors. And I was senior, so I would drive the Lincoln Town Car all week, and then I would trade the other guy for the pickup because he would, and we would use that pickup to tow to the drags. And the first time we put it on the tow bar, I made Paula sit in the car while I went around because I didn't know how it would react or if it was going to break loose or anything, and towed her all around the neighborhood.
That was something.
No.
I mean, how awesome would that be? Just I want to be driving down the interstate with the kids, like, Craig, you're going to be going on vacation. How funny would that be? You guys are in the vehicle. Oh, look, there's one of those race cars we talk about on the podcast. Now you go by a toter home and you're like, I wonder what's in there.
Right.
That is so true. And I was talking about that, in the old open trailer days, people would go by and give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And
Thumbs down.
And I do kind of miss that a little bit. It was kind of fun.
I had a 68 Chargers, like the first kind of cool car I had that I restored, and I was going somewhere and I let my wife's cousin use my enclosed trailer, and then it was like, oh, hey, I need to go here with my car. So I put it on an open trailer and driving down the interstate, and that should probably be illegal. Like, it's like having Bigfoot tied to the hood of your pickup driving down the road with that thing. Like, people are looking, I'm like, this is not safe at all. Like, some of those cars just are attention grabbers, and that's one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely right. Yeah. Well, this past year or two, Paula, that's why Paula hadn't raced on the East Coast, because I'm too much of a selfish bastard to let her to take one of her cars. And so she would follow me on the West Coast races with our pickup and an open trailer. And she would say it was like the old days, people would go by and then they'd be kind of surprised to see a silver-haired lady driving that pickup, pulling that race car down. So that was kind of fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, Mike, your first car you said was a '63 Impala, right? And Paula, you had an Oldsmobile.
Yes.
But you guys got heavy into these, these Mopars, the Dusters and the Cudas. So, well, I know that you took the Duster to your honeymoon. So you switched to Plymouths pretty early on. How did all that happen?
I bought the '63 Impala almost the day I turned 16, and it was $275. And I drove that for a year and a half. And
transmission.
Yeah, and I used to it was a 4-speed, and I'm a horrible 4-speed driver. And I would blow every time we would go out to the cruises. About every other week, I was breaking the transmission in it. And there was a bar ditch in front of my parents' house, and my friends would tow me home, and we'd pull it over the bar ditch, and I'd drop the transmission out of it and go to this exchange place. And for $80, you could exchange the and I did that so much, I would be getting the same ones back every 2 years. I didn't know how to put one together. And then, so finally I decided I was an automatic guy, and I saved up enough and bought that Duster. Brand new. It was $3,088 brand new, and I traded that Impala in on it. But I'd already been a Mopar guy. I had gone to some of those performance clinics that they had. That Don Grother had come, and me and my friends we were already into the Mopars, even though we didn't own one. And that 340 Duster kind of got it started.
$3,000 for a brand new car back then.
I still have, when we destroyed it, I saved the VIN plate. I've still got the original one owner title and all that. And it was $3,000. It's stickered for $4,000. And I was embarrassed to tell my friends, because that was an outlandish amount of money for a Duster. But they sold it to me for $3,088 after trading that Impala in.
My mom had a Duster. I think it was a 71 Duster when I was real young. And it had a slant 6 in it though. But my father always said, man, we could have turned that into a stock in a weekend. We could have had a 340 in there, and that would have been us. We might have not been locked in these Fords for the rest of my life.
They do make awesome race cars. They are really, really, really fun race cars. It's really, really fun to drive, and they're relatively easy to work on, get with a small block in them. And I love them. I mean, but I like my Cuda better. I got to be honest. I like the E-bodies better.
You're on the 383 in that car?
I do. When we first bought the car as a roller from Eric Bell, that car's got a lot of history. It was Art Pacheco's car, and then Eric Bell had it. And then Eric sold it as a roller, and we were going to build a 340 for it. And after we bought it, we were still beginning to build a 340. And I pay attention really well. And that's when Don Little was coming out with that 383 Super Stock and his Challenger that he runs in with a Hemi now. And I go, Don's smart. He sees something there. If he if he's running that combination. So before we even really began on the 340, we switched gears and went to a 383, and that's all I've ever had in it. But my intention at the beginning was to run it with a 340, and I would still like to do that, but there's just not time, and I'm getting old, and I don't have another 15 years for a learning curve to figure out a super stock 340.
Oh.
How's the
Bell
super
like
stock?
the,
How's the 446 pack combo on super stock with that car?
It's very good. That's what Bell was running in it, and the 444 barrel is very good. They're all good combinations. But my car is still a ladder bar car, and that's why Eric sold it to build his 4-link Challenger, and the 446 pack motors had evolved enough that it was just too violent a car with that 446 pack. And although he was laughing the other day, in the 15 years I've had it, the 383 technology, I think I'm only about a 10th or 1500 slower now than he was going with the 6-pack. But we've changed some stuff on the suspension. We've lowered the car, and I'm going to have Phil Mandela at some point when he has time. We're going to go ahead and 4-link it, and we're going to update the car quite a bit. I doubt if it'll be during the season this year, probably during the off season coming up.
I mean, that's the cool thing about Mopars. I mean, the technology's really changed a lot. I mean, I think they're almost into the 80s.
Yes. That's exactly true. We're following along behind.
It's
But
almost
see,
1985 for the Mopar guys. Like, welcome to the 80s.
Well, see, that follows with me being from Oklahoma. That's my joke there too. You know, we're living about 20 years behind. You know, and I enjoy it. That's my era.
You know what? They make great race cars, and I just love the looks of those Cudas. Like, they're pretty awesome. Unfortunately, at this point, it's a little out of reach for me. So yeah, I'd like to get back into a Mopar someday. My brother has a Duster, and those make just great race cars too. So I can see why you guys like that car.
Yeah, I turned 16 in 1970, and me and a friend that still we went to the Tulsa State Fair, and they had 3 brand new E-body Cudas sitting there on display. First time I'd ever seen one, and I just fell in love with them then. And for my whole life, that's been my favorite car.
We had the identical green Dusters at one time. I don't know if you remember. And we would qualify within 1,000 at every race we went.
Yeah.
If it was 12, 13 or 14, 15, it was always 1,000 difference.
Yeah. Her first race car we built in 97, and it was a Duster, real pretty red car. A guy painted it, did a really, really good job. And Paula's brother who was my business partner in the trash business, was going to drive it. And before the car was even done, I started realizing this is a mistake, because we covered for each other when I would go racing. And I thought, well, if he gets the fever and this is going to be a problem. And before the car was even done, he changed his mind about it. So and didn't want to race. So we finished the car, and Paula started driving it. I said, will you drive a little bit and then we'll sell it? And that's how it all got started, with her driving.
And that really snowballed. Then we got the toter home, the trailer.
That's where that's when things started going down.
Had to build a shop. I mean, it went crazy.
You know, this sure sounds like Brian. Hey, I'm gonna get this car. I'll just sell it. It's fine, but I got to race it a couple times first.
Yes.
And then it starts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Paula, I got to share with you, Paula. We just picked up a new trailer from T&E the week before Christmas that had been on order for about a year, and when we picked it up, they had it inside because it was cold. So we're backing the toter in to hook onto it, and Paula's sitting in there with me with the dog, and I said, do you remember that time when you bought me the tow bar for Christmas? The story we were talking a while ago. I said, has this gotten a little out of hand since then? As we're backing in to pick up this thing.
And now it holds 3 cars and
Wow.
a street car. I mean, it's crazy.
All right.
We're out of control.
Yeah.
I got a question there. Do you still make Paula ride in the car?
Well, that's funny. Todd at T&E told me when they test drive the trailers before you come and get them, they have a guy ride in the trailer while they go on like a 50-mile trip down the highway. They have one guy follow to see how it tracks with the guy pulling, and some guy actually rides in the trailer. So I guess that, kind of a tradition.
At least turn the air on, before you let her crack the window. At least turn the air on now.
That was really scary. I was traumatized.
Yeah.
If he loses first round, you're gonna make him ride in that trailer on the way home.
Yes.
So I want to know, when you guys had Dusters, were they the same? Like pretty much two of the exact same cars then? Motor, everything,
I did.
combos?
We had when we built her red car, I'll tell this, I can share it now. That car was a feather duster. I don't know if you know, but that's a pretty trick car to build a race car out of. And I would bring it to the races, and she'd be driving it at the Division 4 races, and Chuck Nelson would give her a hard time and go across the scales and go, he'd go, how come your car's 2/10 slower than Mike's? And so they started giving me hell. I go, well, we put that car together with everything that didn't work on mine for the last 15 years. Why would it be fast now? So they shamed me into, we finally made it fast. But the hardest thing to do was to duplicate the carburetor. It took me about 3 years before, if I wanted to go, if I would take the better carburetor and put it on her car, it would still be 500 or 600 better. And it took a long, long time to get where we finally had 2 carburetors. And then we destroyed that car in a towing accident coming home from Indy in 2004. And that's when we built the second one, which is the one I have now. The green one.
2 green.
Yeah, we had 2 green ones for about till 2015, when Paula had the accident and destroyed the original one. And so now we're down to 1.
We've been duster killers.
Yeah, I was telling Bobby, I go, the Mopar guys, I don't think are going to let me have any more dusters. I think I've been banned from eBay from getting any more dusters.
I think there's plenty of those out there though, because you could pretty much go to any racetrack and there could literally be a duster class.
There is.
You know, I can remember going to Indy running class one year, and there were 15 dusters in H stock automatic, and that was probably 85 or 86, just dusters. And it was, that was a lot of fun.
I kind of feel like that. I feel like that's the Camaro of Mopars. You know,
you're right.
They make great race cars. There's a million of them out there, and they just work.
You're absolutely right.
That's the thing. They work really well.
Mm-hmm. And there's the 2 combinations, the 340, the 360, and then of course the high compression 340. You know, for a long time the 360 was the better combination, but right now, in my opinion, the 340 is a little better.
Well, I think Van Lance got one for sale, and he knows how to make them work. So that's
absolutely, absolutely he does, and that's an awesome car. That's a very, very nice car. I believe he's run both, but I believe the one he has now is a high compression car. I'm not certain, but I think it is. I think it's a D automatic car.
I think it's a terrible car. If somebody's looking for a Camaro, hit me up. Boy. So did you guys ever run? Have you guys had to race each other then when you were in your dusters?
Oh yeah. She beat me at Vegas, and everybody thought that I had laid down for it, but I didn't. It made it a little easier because everybody thought I'd given it away to her. And then
Bob Price said, "That's the smartest man in the whole world."
Yeah, Bob Price gets out there and goes, "There's the smartest guy at the track." But then I think she beat me somewhere else too. And then one time somewhere, because we were in different classes, I think at the Tulsa Points race one year, and there was a small field, and whoever won had the bye to the final and a heads-up final, and I think she actually let me have it because we knew that I would have the heads-up final. And but yeah, no, I wouldn't take her lightly. I'll guarantee you that.
I took a red light for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she knew that, you know, if you want to keep you driving her around and keeping the race cars, you had to let you have one, you know.
Well, yeah, Chuck used to tease her about sleeping with her mechanic. He goes, that doesn't appear to be working for you.
Yeah. Oh, I had this one race. Every time I pull on the scales, my car would not start. You know, you kill your car and give you a wake, it would not start. 3 times that weekend, I got on the scales, my car would not start. And the scale guys would push me off and be laughing and all this stuff. And I go, that's it. I am not sleeping with my mechanic tonight. I am done. They were laughing so hard.
You know, you think even though you're crossing the scales, that should be less stressful. Like you already won, you're there, and then like, crap, can I go another round? Well, that's awesome. For any single listeners out there, Mike, how do you catch a woman like Paula? Like,
I really got lucky. We really, that, we went out on that first date, and then we really, for that 4 years, we kind of knew we were right for each other, and we just had both interests, same interest. And then in all honesty, we were both, well, I was not even 18 when we met. She was barely 17
or 17.
And, we kind of grew up together, really, we became adults. We were already together. So I guess that kind of made it easy.
I was always into cars. And before I met Mike, I'd been to the drag strip by myself several times. My mom found out, oh man, she was so mad because in those years you didn't go to the drag strip by yourself as a girl. But I was always a car person. I love cars.
And the drag strip in Tulsa was literally like 6 miles from my house and stuff. And Tulsa back then had a huge, I think 5/8 mile dirt track, and stock car racing was real popular.
We did that too.
And we went on a lot of, I never participated in that, but we went on a lot of our dates to that stuff. We were just kind of always into cars. We always were.
Like the noise.
My uncle, that was like a brother to me, only about 8 years older than me, came back from the Army and had a brand new 68 GTO. And I borrowed that to take Paula to her prom, her band prom. So that would have been like, it was 3 or 4 years old. And we went to the prom for about 30 minutes and then went to the place where they all street raced in Tulsa. And street raced.
We ran in and took a picture so I could prove to my mom I was there. Then we left.
And somewhere there's actually pictures of me with my tucked shirt on. Of course, I had the jacket and the tie off, and I'm street racing that yellow GTO. I told him that years later. He was an alcoholic and went through some periods in his life. And at a reunion, I said, "You remember when you loaned me that car?" And I took it to that. He goes, "I loaned you that car." He goes, I was drinking then, wasn't I? Yeah, I think you were.
I was in my prom dress street racing with him.
Were you the fly girl? Did you drop like the handkerchief?
We had fun. We've had a lot of really good times, met a lot of super nice people. It's just been a blast. It's just a different life and a great family for us.
Mm-hmm.
How hard did
We're really looking forward to going back east, and we're looking forward to the Butner's race and Tyler's Bohannon's race. I think that's going to be such a reunion after all this COVID crap and everything, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Really looking forward to it.
I kind of made the prediction earlier that if all this stuff gets shut down on the West Coast, that's really going to change. Like everyone's like, oh no, they're not going to shut it down, or that's not going to happen. People aren't going to drive that far. But I hate to say I told you so, but man, it's sad what's happened to these racetracks out there by you guys.
I know we might move.
Yeah, we
talked about
we actually talked about that a little bit. Luckily, we still have our home in Oklahoma, and there's room to park the rig there. And so we've already thought this year we're going to do this East Coast swing at the beginning, and then we're going to leave the rig in Oklahoma if things don't open up out here, and hit it pretty hard again. But if things really shut down out here, there's rumors that Pomona may not, even before the COVID, there was talk that, the fairgrounds didn't really want that there anymore. And if things shut down out here, I would consider moving possibly to Florida or somewhere like that, or North Carolina, as long as we can continue to race and everything. That's what we do. And, that's what we want to do. So.
Yeah, we go on a real vacation like normal people, and we count the days when we get to go home and get the cars ready to go. Yeah. We're looking at each other like, why did we do this for so long? And I'm talking 2 days, but why are we here? I spend 5 or 6 hours a day, every day out in my shop, just right out that way, and that's just what we do. That's what we do. We've been getting the new trailer ready, and I've been getting all the cars ready, and shuttling stuff here and there, and that's what we do. And if we can't do it out here, we'll move somewhere where we can. And we each have our jobs, I take care of all the entries and all the computer work, even at the track and everything. We each have our jobs that we have to do. And then in the mornings, it's with 3 cars, it's quite a show. I mean, you're up at 5:30, you've got to walk the dog, you got to get cleaned up, you got to have a bite of breakfast, you got to warm cars up, do the tires, get the computer set up. It's quite a game. And if anybody comes, stops and talks to us, we're like, uh-oh, we're already behind a little bit. And then you start running and getting caught back up. Then you'll go, oh, I did put fuel in the car. You know, it's just stuff like that. You can't get interrupted or you miss something.
Right.
Well, there's a
That's
lot
tough.
of weight on your shoulders without the stalker alarm clock. Like, how is anybody else going to know it's time to get out of bed?
I know.
Well, Paula is notorious for being the first one to warm
I
up.
love that. I want to be going down the aisle and waking everybody up. That's my favorite thing.
That and burnouts. She loves big
I
burnouts.
love burnouts. And whenever they stop me, and I'm like, oh, can I do another one? This will be fun.
I see the John Force burnout half track.
I begged him one time to let me get in a burnout contest because I know I can win.
That's awesome. Well, if you guys, you're in on the area, I guess my plan was to try to come down and run some of those Arizona Association races, but I flew into Phoenix a couple weeks ago, and it looks like Wild Horse is maybe doing a little bit of racing, but nothing formal. Like, was it basically like a test and tune or real small scale?
Right. Yeah, they're doing private test and tunes, and you got to kind of know the people. I'm only in. There's 4 or 5 groups that do it, and I'm just barely gotten in with one of them. Tucson is actually doing a little more, and they've come up with a unique. I haven't done it yet, but I was texting with Leo Glassbrenner last night, and I think he may come over and do one. They do a deal. I don't know exactly. I'm sure I'm getting this wrong, but they can only have so many on the property at a time. So they bring like 8 or 10 cars in for 2 hours. They all get 4 runs. And then like the best package wins the money or something. And then they leave and that number come in again. So they're being pretty creative, trying to figure out a way to get some things done.
And the purse is $1,200.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of fun. It's kind of a good idea.
And we need to shake down her car. We made some changes. So at some point we may run over there, and I may enter one of those just to get some test and tune runs before we take it all the way to Florida and figure out I did something wrong.
Well, the nice thing is if you run it, nobody will know really how fast that car is.
That's true. She can drive that car better than me. Not to mention the weight disparity.
Yeah, I think I'm really glad that Butner's race is happening and the Gainesville stuff. Like, that's pretty neat. But this class race revival there at St. Louis, that's probably, I'm really excited. I mean, we're 60 days out, and just to give people another option, I think that's really going to change. That race is definitely going to fill up really fast, I think, now with the way things are changing.
I agree. We're entered in both of those, and I'm actually more excited this year about those 2 races than I am the Gator Nationals. I'm looking forward to how much fun. I think everybody's going to be in a great mood. Everybody's going to be glad to be there. The competition will obviously be off the chart, and it's just going to be a blast. I'm really looking forward to it.
It will be fun.
Excellent. Now, you guys in the 80s and 90s, did you have a plan that, hey, as soon as we can retire, I want to race full time, let's do this? Did you guys plan this out, or is this something that just seemed to happen?
No, we absolutely did. We absolutely, we raced as hard as we could. From the first national event I went to in '83, we spent every bit of our vacation and all the time we could racing. And when I went into business for myself in the when I was in my mid 30s, I would take a lot of time and travel, and Paula would fly in and out of the races. And so even while we were still in our working career, I was very fortunate to be able to go to a lot of races because Paula's brother would cover for me, and then I would pay him back. Him and his family like to go on cruises and things. So during the off season, I'd work a lot making it up to him. But by the time we were 40, our goal was to retire at 55 and really race. And we said we're going to race as long as we can or until we're sick of it. And I don't think now at this point, I don't think I'm ever going to get sick of it. So as long as we can keep doing it, we're going to go.
Well, on the day I retired, we hopped in the toter and went to Sonoma to race.
Yeah, did the back half of the West, and
I was already loaded.
And we're both real good planners, and we've already got a plan that as we get older, we'll downsize to just a regular motorhome and a 1-car trailer and just race 1 car. If I'm fortunate enough to be still doing it, hopefully 10, 12 years in my late 70s, we'll just do it with 1 car. And so we've got a plan all the way out, just if we're lucky enough for it to happen,
I think that's
great.
definitely, that's the key to success right there, is having the plan and executing it. Like, no wonder you guys are deadly.
Yeah, but thank you.
Well, we have a lot of fun.
Yeah, but yeah, we're both list makers. We're both real goal oriented and stuff, and we kind of go back and take stock of where we're at and where we want to be, and kind of make decisions like that.
We'll have a long race, and after we hit in the toter home, there's a pad of paper, and he sits and dictates his list, and then after it gets done, I write my list, and then we're ready. And to an extent, once we leave Indy, we document a little diary of everything that didn't exactly go as planned, and we start working on that a year ahead, and it takes a year to get that stuff right.
And I have 2 motors for both of my cars, and one of them are the Indy motors. Even though I can't win class, my best super stock engine has been to Indy now 4 years in a row without coming apart, and it only has 41 runs on it. And then I run the other engine all the rest of the year, and it'll probably go to Indy again this year. Although we're building a 3rd motor, in all honesty, I don't think it'll be ready this year, and so it'll go to Indy in 2022. That's how much I plan out and look ahead.
Well, speaking of Indy here now.
Yes.
The automatic horsepower factoring system is going to be in play this year.
Yes.
For one, I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
But Mike, you and I have gone back and forth a little bit on classracer.com about this. I know you're not too happy about this.
I won't say I'm not happy about it. I'm conflicted. I'm conflicted because I am old school. I love the idea of being able to have some place where everybody can showcase how fast they go. But I'm a realist, and I understand that the AHFS is not being allowed to work right now because people, including me, know how to manipulate it, and I guess it has to happen. But I'm not happy about it. I wish there was some way, and maybe bonus points again for qualifying. There has to be a way to encourage the people that can go fast to go fast, and possibly giving 10 points, which would only equal 1 round for setting a record. And then people towards the end of the year that were shooting for a top 10 or maybe even a national championship would say, you know what, I'm going to take this trigger to get this 10 points because that might make a difference. Or if there were qualifying points, even if it was only the top 3, in the old days, it used to be the top 16, but just 3 points, 2 point, 1 point for the top 3 qualifiers. And then people would say, okay, I'm going to take these triggers, or I'm going to raise my average, because if I do that 4 times, that's a round during the season. If the AHFS is going to work, there has to be an encouragement for the people to run their cars. And I really, really love the performance aspect of what we do. I really, really love working on them and tinkering and making them fast. And it's really sad that there's nowhere you can't go and let it rip. And I've been annihilated in Super Stock J Automatic for the last 4 or 5 years. I think I was a runner-up 3 years in a row just because of the ladder that I was able to get to the final. And by Larry Zabalik's car, Lincoln Moorhead's car, the Warner's car. I know all those cars are faster than mine, and it didn't really bother me because I went a 126 underpass with my car at Indy, I think 2 years ago, and I'm prouder of that than some of the class wins that I've had at Indy, even though I was like 2/10 behind those guys when I did it. And all I'm saying is, I understand it's got to happen, but I can't say I'm real happy about it. Maybe even another alternative would be, at least at Indy, make it 130 in or 135, and maybe kind of wean us in on it a little bit. And I don't know. I understand it has to happen. I'm not real excited about it.
And Mike is a performance guy. He loves performance. He spends a lot of time to make it work, and he has a lot of class wins. He's pushing 100 class wins right now. So,
but I did get to be on the fair side. I lost 3 heads-up runs last year.
That was weird.
So we're in agreement. If they just raise the trigger a little bit, that might be acceptable.
What they-
See, the thing with the AHFS is it's never going to work. When you're only taking 50, 60 cars at a national event, it's never going to get triggered. There's no reason to. You can qualify wherever you want. It's an all-run field. That's why they allowed national opens to be run as fast as you want. So when you say that there's no place to do it, well, they could come back and say, hey, you got national opens, run as fast as you want there. You're not going to get penalized. Set a record, go 2 seconds under. My concern is at Indy where they take 100, well, it was 180. I think this is down to 160 cars now. You never needed any grade. One grade point would get you in. So that means you could have your oddball, insane combo sitting in a trailer all year, take it out for Indy, go 250 under, qualify number 1, have that fun, put it back in the trailer, and never race it again until Indy next year. Maybe running at 1 national open to get the 1 required grade point. So that's not good either, I don't think, to have that oddball combo hogging a spot on a ladder where he or she doesn't have to, unless, they're going to strictly tear that car down at Indy every single year, which they might, which it's probably going to be legal because it's an oddball combo. And it's just, there's no way that car will ever get hit with horsepower if there's nothing on at Indy. The Indy has the most cars. It has the most die hard, go as fast as you can competitors. That's why I feel like something has to be in play there, because that's where it is do or die. You have to make the field. You got to qualify, 7 or 8 under just to get in. And that's what makes it so efficient at that race.
I agree. Everything you just said is 100% correct. But the one, and you and I talked about this before, the one thing that NHRA has in their toolbox that they've never used, it's in the rules of the AHFS that they can arbitrarily make a decision and give horsepower. And I understand they don't want to do that because it goes back, that brings it back to politics and who likes who and you don't like me and all that. But that is a tool. And if the car that you just described would be a prime candidate for that, the rare car that only comes out and goes 185. I don't think many people would be upset if NHRA came back on the Tuesday after Indy and said, this guy is taking a horsepower hit. But they're not going to. I understand their reluctance. They don't want to open that can of worms. So it goes back to what you were just saying. It probably has to happen. It has to happen.
Maybe AHFS will work better with the classic racing at the points races at Lucas Oil.
Yeah, because more cars will be there. But I'm at the point in my career, I would not take a trigger to win class because I build my cars to try to win heads up runs in the eliminator. That's why I'm there, is to win the eliminator. And I wouldn't go 120 under to win class at Indy now and take a permanent horsepower hit. I wouldn't do it. And that is kind of sad, because I'm not the only one. I guarantee there's other people that wouldn't do it either.
Well, there's no incentive, right? What do you
Yeah, exactly.
If they were going to give points to class winners, if they were still paying contingency to class winners, now you're just limited to a trophy and maybe a mention in the national dragster. But
precisely.
I'm there to win the eliminator too. I think 90% of us are there to win the eliminator now. Back in the day, you had to win class to get in the eliminator. That sounds pretty cool.
Yes.
That was long gone before I showed up though.
Well, we were there just for the very end of that. And in fact, I think when we first started going to Indy, I think they only took 96 cars, didn't they? I can't.
It was lower.
But we never failed to. No, I guess that was gone because we never failed to qualify for Indy. So that was already gone before we even got there. But I can remember just barely squeaking in. In fact, I think we even got in as an alternate at Indy, in the mid and early 80s when we first started. But yeah, it was a lot harder back then, or at least it was for me.
It was for us, that's for sure.
Just imagine if they opened up. So for any divisional or whatever national event, say they take 120 cars qualified and they only took the top or make run class that you had to actually win to make it to the race, that's going to fix the automatic horsepower in a heartbeat.
Precisely. And I think as the quotas go down, I think, this wasn't my idea. People have suggested it on Class Racer. If they only want to run 64 in the eliminator, let 96 or 98 cars come in and make those first 2 hits. That wouldn't add 20 minutes but then only take the top 64 qualifiers. And that's going to change things. Plus it gives the people that are getting locked out of some of the national events because they don't have enough grade points, the opportunity to go and the opportunity to try to get in, and I see it. I guess the only, they talk about not enough pit spaces not enough parking at some of the tracks, but other than that little bit of extra time to run those 30 extra cars just for the 2 qualifying sessions, it doesn't sound like that much more time to me. And it would start pushing the AHFS system to work as people were forced to go faster to get in the field.
That's what's going to be nice about these the bigger money races too, is guys are going to let them rip. We're going to see what everybody can do. And
exactly, it's going to be a blast. Because I'm going to let mine go. I'm going to let ours go.
There's going to be a guy should be selling paper and pens there, because there's going to be a lot of note taking happening that weekend.
That's true.
Hopefully there's no live timing. That's all you just print everybody's runs out.
I'm sure there'll be a book. Nitro Joe will be there with a book from the big money dollar race qualifying ladder or something.
I bet he does.
I bet you're right.
Yep.
I bet you're right.
Well, that's kind of what makes it great. But like we talk about it all the time, and I feel like we're just pounding a dead horse here. But it's like, what's the reason to go faster? I mean, there's people like me that we're just trying to work into it and play and get with it and just enjoy everything about it. But there's some really fast cars there, and there's no incentive. I mean, that's.
Oh, I agree. I had 2 heads-up runs this past season with the Sorensen brothers. They beat me both times soundly, but that was the most fun I had last year. I mean, we prepped the cars. I knew he was fast, which he proved to me in spades, but it was a blast. I absolutely, that's what it's all about. It reminded me of the old days. And before, I can remember when we first started, you'd go to a points race, and the first time you were in the top 10, you were excited because you knew everybody was trying. There was no reason to be sandbagging. And now, if you go to a race and you go 101 under and you're number 1, unless you're going after the bye, people are almost laughing at you. They're going, "What are you doing? How stupid was that?"
Don't say anything. I might do it.
Yeah, Paul might do it.
I'm not very good at it yet. You call me stupid.
Don't get in trouble, Mike. Come on. So what is since we're on the AHFS rule, let's talk about any other rules. Is there any rule that you would like to see changed in stock or super stock?
No, there's nothing that jumps to the top of my head other than, just because the way things have changed and the tightening up that the tech department's been forced to about teardowns and stuff, there are rules. I'm almost in favor of a little bit of a lightening of the rules because they can't enforce them. And I can't go to anything specific, but, as things change and things evolve, if they're just only going to maybe tear down, pull some cylinder heads and stuff like that, maybe some things need to lighten up in the bottom end. There was the Aero when a lot of people were running light pistons and stuff, and then they kind of cracked down on that. And so now that maybe that stuff needs to go back a little bit, and just, if the configuration of the piston is correct in the top, it goes, because we all know they can't look. They don't have time. There's not time. There's not enough manpower. So if they're not going to look, things are going to start drifting into the gray area. And I think 95, I personally don't think there's a lot of cheating out there, because people have, I have pride in what we've accomplished over all these years. So I'm not going to cheat and then get in a tear down at the Gator Nationals here in 3 weeks and get caught with something illegal and then people I don't even know are going to go, oh, that cheating, you know, I've known it for 30 years, you know, that he's been cheating. People want to protect their reputation is what I'm trying to say. But the inclination is to drift to where there's no enforcement, to go into a gray area. So if NHRA wanted to say, and this is my opinion, in stock eliminator, if the top of the piston's correct, it's correct. You know, if it's a steel rod, it's a steel rod. And, you know, no aluminum rods, stuff like that. I think it would evolve. I think probably the majority of racers don't agree with me on that, but it's got to be, they've got to be able to check what they say that, you know, are the rules. And if they're not going to check those things, then they should make the rules more lax. That's kind of what I'm getting at. But you know, everything else, I can't think of anything. You know, I'm not in favor of 10.5-inch tires for stockers or anything like that. You know, I'm a traditionalist.
And we don't run light pistons.
Well, I think I've pulled a rod and piston three times in my career. I've had to pull a rod and piston in a stocker, never in the super stocker, but in the stocker, I've had to do it 3 times.
Yeah, in the dirt.
In the dirt.
Do you have a favorite tire? This is my new question now. I want to know what everybody runs for a tire and a favorite oil.
I run on the stockers. I run Goodyears exclusively. I've never even made a pass with a Hoosier. Not that I've got anything against them. It's just kind of what I evolved into.
Is that a Goodyear radial or bias?
Oh, it's a radial.
Okay.
We run radials all the time. And I love Goodyear, and they're progressing on their super stock tire. But I'll be honest, the Mickey Thompson super stock, that 31 1/4 is faster on my car than any of the Goodyear radials they have. So I run the Mickey super stock tire, and I've tried every Goodyear tire super stock radial they put out, and the Mickey's faster on my car, and I run Redline oil all the time.
But his favorite wheel, yes, he loves wheels.
Yeah, I collect.
You know, like girls like shoes, Mike likes wheels.
Well, Alumastars or what's your
I just bought a new set for the Duster. It's I can't even remember the brand. I ordered them from
PMR.
Tony at PMR. It's is there a Champion or something like that? And they've got the black inlay on. They're awesome.
Oh.
but everything else the super stocker has those old Mickey Thompson wheels that kind of look like the Frankenstein spokes. I really like those.
They were really light. I was looking for
Yes.
those. They don't make them anymore.
No, they do not make those anymore. And that's what I run on the super stocker. But yeah, I kind of switch the wheels out every
I
time.
pick my own wheels.
Yeah, Paula
He
picked
never likes my wheels, but I pick my own.
What's one idea you guys have to bring more people into class racing?
Loan them cars.
You know, it's probably you got to figure out a way to make it cheaper for younger guys to be able to come in and compete a little bit. When we did that deal at Vegas this year, you know, doing the pot and trying to build a pot, and Tyler Bohannon and Butters have taken it way to the next level. But maybe somehow try to create enough money in the pots that some of these really, really good drivers that are going to these high dollar bracket races can look over at stock and super stock and say, maybe I want to get into that. So like what Tyler's doing, you know, some of these guys I'm sure some of these bracket racing aficionados, these really, really good drivers are probably looking for a ride to get into that race. And maybe if enough of those come about, or if we start doing some of the pots like we did at Vegas, where all of a sudden a national event's worth $15,000 or $20,000 to win, they might say, you know, I'm going to get me a little Camaro that'll only run 3 under, and I'm going to go in and kick those guys' asses and take their money, which they probably would. And then once they get that car, at least what happened to me, and I think what happened to you guys, once you start and say, oh, I'm just going to be happy with going 25 under and racing, then the hook gets set. And within 2 years, they're going 1 under and all excited about class racing. So I think probably the number one incentive to get the young guys in is the purses. We've got to figure out a way to make them look over at what we're doing and say, you know, messing with all those rules might be worth it. If I can go to Tyler's race and win this amount of money, or I can go to the Butner's race and have a shot at whatever it is, 50 grand or something like that. I think that's maybe a catalyst for bringing some of those guys in.
I would agree with that. And I think the nail that you're hitting on the head there is just the fact that we can't rely on NHRA to do anything. NHRA isn't going to increase the pot. They're not going to come up with these things. Like, as racers and passionate people of class racing, we are the ones that are going to have to do the work, whether it's Butner's race or like you guys come up with that pot, you know, like that's how you're going to make it grow. NHRA isn't going to do whatever, you know, they're not going to do much to bring in new people, but the racers and the other people are responsible for your own destiny.
And you're exactly right. I mean, you know, look at NHRA as they're doing it as a business, whatever race you want to, when they put a quota on there of 60 cars, and then we all look on Class Racer and people are upset that they couldn't get in and everything. Well, they've got 90, maybe they've got 90, 95 that want in for that spot for 60. Well, they've got no incentive they could say, oh, well, if we do this and it pisses off 15 of those guys, now we've only got 80 wanting those 60 spots. What do we care? You know, that doesn't hurt us. So you're exactly right. We've got to do it for ourselves. And what we did at Vegas was a lot of fun. I was really excited how many people participated, and people that hadn't won before, or, you know, and I mean, I don't count myself as, you know, I don't expect to win. I don't mean to sound defeatist or anything, but I was proud how many people that didn't really, probably one of the contenders were amongst one of the usual picks, went ahead and entered the pot.
Oh, we were talking about it a couple of weeks before, and people were bringing us money for it. We even decided to do it.
Yeah. So I think people,
like, what?
You know, for $100 or $150, it's worth it to me to see. And I would have loved for some first time winner to have won it, you know, and then been, you know, an extra 10 grand, although it wasn't that much. But I think that's what we've got to do. We've got to somehow figure out how to get the purses bigger. And the only way the purses are going to get bigger is if we put the money in.
We have to do it ourselves.
You know, I know there's a lot of people out there that don't want to hear that. But
Was that a winner take all, or was there 2 payouts, like a winner runner up?
I set it up as a winner take all because my goal was to make the winner's purse big. And I wrote in the rules that if the guys decided to split, I was still going to hand the money to the winner, and it was his responsibility to split it. Because, to be honest, if I lost, I was going to leave, and you know, I get. You
don't want to be left holding the bag.
Yeah. And then, as luck had it, I actually made it to the Final Four in stock, and people wanted to split, and everybody agreed to the split, and I think Justin won the stock money.
Yeah. And Emmons won, and he didn't get in.
Yeah. And the Emmons boy, my great friends, I've known them since they were 12, and Paul, they did not get in. So
Jerry did, but the others.
So Brian won the
whole pot.
He won the super stock pot by being runner up. And so it was a lot of fun. I think everybody enjoyed it. And
how much was the pot?
They were both around $4,000. They were both around, yeah.
Yeah, it made me really nervous having that much cash in the motor house.
Because normally by the time I've been in Vegas for 2 weeks, I don't have any cash left in the motor.
Yeah, your payouts at the craps table at Caesars.
I told everybody I was going to take it to the cannery and put it on black 22 and double the pot.
Double the pot for them.
I mean, really, when you look at it, it wasn't that big an entry fee, and look at the money that came in. Like,
Yeah.
you could literally do that at every race you go to, and it wouldn't be that big a deal.
I think I'm going to do something, and I'm not going to do it at the Gators but I think at the beginning, I think every race that we go to in our division here on the West Coast, I think we're going to run it. And I actually think it might be a better idea to run it at the points races because there's more cars there. And so you could get the pot bigger
And lower entry.
and maybe try to find some little sponsor to kick in $1,000 to it or something, and, like an engine builder, a chassis builder or something, and try to get it up a little bit, or maybe some restaurant that's near the track, maybe throw in a dinner or something. I think we're going to try to work on it a little bit and build it up, but these big high dollar stock, super stock races are kind of taking it already to the next level before what we were trying to do even really started.
But it made it fun. We had a real good time. We posted on the back of our trailer where we were at, who was entered, who, type thing. And we kept crossing out the amount and increasing it. And people were driving by and looking at it and running their finger down it, and they were going to get someone to pay. And it was really a lot of fun. And
then we even thought about selling the field, the people that didn't enter, selling the field for like $500 or something, and then if any one of those won, you won.
Yeah.
The next thing, we'll have a Calcutta at every race.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Exactly.
I told him we could do a Calcutta party even.
Yeah.
Fun.
Mm-hmm.
But what we were afraid of, if you did that, and then one of those guys, there'd almost be a financial incentive to let somebody else win. And we didn't want to create that stuff. Although I don't think anybody would throw an opportunity to win a national event away for $4,000. At least I wouldn't. But
who could afford to buy Justin Lamb or Jody Lang?
Exactly.
And that's why you had to pay before. What would we do it before?
Yeah, you had to. We did that specifically. You had to enter before the first round of qualifying because we didn't want people looking at the ladder and saying,
I don't have.
I've got Justin or I've got Dan Fletcher. I'm not going to waste my $100. I've got them first round, or I have a heads up race. I can't win first round. So, but Justin, going back to the winner take all. And I also said if there was a split, if the people agreed to a split, everybody had to agree. One no vote. It wasn't democratic. And when they went for a split, Justin, who probably was the odds-on favorite to win of the ones that were left, I thought very graciously agreed to the split because the other people wanted it.
He was really nice.
And then he went ahead and he did go ahead and win.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I kind of like the idea of the winner taking it all because that was my whole idea, was to bump the amount of money that you get for winning a national event back up to what it used to be.
So at Bohannon's race, when you're in the quarterfinals and they want to split, do you split?
Hell yes.
That's going to be interesting. Like, there's a lot of guys I know that are like, I'm not splitting. Splitting's for quitting. I'm not splitting. I'm like,
I'll split now.
That's awesome.
Well, one last question before we let you guys go here is, do you have a recommendation or a guest that you would like to have us on this show?
Oh, that's a tough one. I've really enjoyed I think Fletcher does awesome interviews. I like him. And
I do the Emmons.
you ought to do the Emmons all together. That
Get
would
all
be
of them on there. They're crazy and fun.
And Speedy, all four of them.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend that. That would be very, very good.
They would be good.
Yeah.
And maybe some that just aren't that great racers can Stan and Sheila Holt. Oh, they're really funny, and they got that loopy tortilla background, and I think you'd really enjoy that.
Yeah.
Paula, when we wanted to find people that weren't good at racing, that's why Bobby and I started this. Like,
I didn't say they weren't good.
we have the village idiots running the podcast. That's why we started there.
Yeah. Well, we put ourselves in that category.
Yeah.
We do. We consider ourselves 50%ers, and the great racers are the Biondos, the Emmons, the Fletcher,
Jody Lane.
Fletcher, Jody,
Yeah.
Justin, obviously.
Yeah.
That's what I I always look at those guys, and I consider myself a 20%er. I've got maybe a 2 in 10 chance of beating one of those guys every time I get up there.
I feel honored when they speak to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Holtz would be hilarious.
You'd have a good time.
You'd have a good time with them.
She drives a stick shift too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Chick with the stick.
Both of
Stick
them.
with a
do,
stick. Yep. Lupe Tortilla. I remember that car. All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, we thank you guys for coming on our
Thank you for having us.
podcast, and it's been a great show. Very informative, and we wish you guys the best of luck this year. Be careful with all your travels and
Thank you.
all the time you guys spend in the motorhome, and the fact that you're still married after spending all that time together in a motorhome is pretty amazing in itself.
It's 18 feet. Keep that in mind. Just 18
There's
feet.
plenty of social distancing in there at times. Huh?
Yeah, it's an experience.
Well, good luck. I
thank
hope
you,
to see you
guys.
guys on the East Coast this year, and to see you at the big money races and the Gator Nationals, and wherever I go. Hopefully you'll be at those races. And we're gonna have our lovely producer, Mr. Craig Weinberg, take us away, pal.
The lovely, absolutely. Thanks a lot, Mike and Paula. Enjoy your warm down there in the sunshine. The rest of us aren't there, but hey, we'll get there. This is Class Racing Today, classracingtoday.com, classracingtoday@gmail.com. If you have any comments, questions, feedback, or you want to come on the show or help sponsor the show, don't forget that we're always looking for help to make this thing even better. We always thank our guests. It's wonderful they take the time to come hang out with us. Otherwise, it's February. Have a wonderful year. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next one. Have a fantastic day. See you later.